Theresa May, she has done well over the last few days, hasn't she? Strong woman standing firm. But we all need to stand strong, and my heart really does go out to the families that have lost loved ones in the tragic events in Manchester. But could this have been prevented? And now by this time everyone's screaming at the screen. But I'm serious. Is what happened a result of actions that the government have made in the past? Theresa May has made cuts, and cuts that in my opinion should not be made. Money could and should be found in other places. Now, I said in a previous episode that more than enough money could be made from corporate tax without really damaging companies in a negative way. But one of the biggest things that people are concerned with in this election is social care. In an interview with Andrew Neil, Theresa May said this.
Now, what I've put forward is a social care policy, which means that people won't have to worry if they're sitting there, month after month, worrying about money coming out of their bank account to pay for their care and worrying how long that will last. They won't have to worry because they won't have to be paying during their lifetime. They won't have to worry that they're going to have to sell their house during their lifetime, and they'll be able to pass £100,000 on to their families when they die.
Now, in 2016, Theresa May, on voting for bringing forward promised funding for social care, she did not vote. And on NHS and social care funding earlier in 2017, again, she did not vote. Now, you could argue she may have been busy and was unable to attend the vote, but in 2012, she did. And on disability benefits and social care, which were geared towards funding for the disabled and their families, Theresa May voted against. But Andrew Neil then asked her about funds promised for the NHS.
We need to ensure that we have long-term sustainability in social care. We need to be able to ensure we can fund social care for the future. We're doing the honest thing about putting a proposal to the British people, and they will make their choice on that.
How are you going to pay for the extra £8 billion for the NHS?
Andrew, when I go around the country and talk to people about what we're going to do in government, what people want to know is, are we actually going to have the strong economy that...
So why won't she answer the question? Does she not know? Now, remember where she was with regards to the vote on NHS and social care. What do you do if you don't want to be held accountable on how you want to vote for something or how you think? Well, I say you don't vote. You don't turn up. So bearing in mind how she has voted in the past and the fact she will not answer this question.
About the extra money for the NHS.
Health and social
Where
care.
will the extra £8 billion come from?
Andrew, what we have done, if you look at our record, is shown that we can put record sums of money into the National Health Service at the same time as we're ensuring that we're building that strong economy.
No, but the ability to answer this question may be in doubt, Prime Minister. Let me try one more time. Where will the extra £8 billion for the NHS come from?
What we have done over the last 7 years, and what we will do in future is ensure that we have the strong economy, the growing economy.
Now also remember, I have mentioned in the past many times the illusory of truth effect. How many times has she said strong economy? Say it enough times and people will believe that is what she can provide.
Generate the funds to put into our public services. I've identified in the manifesto some specific areas where we will change the way in which money is being used, and I've just referenced.
But that's not extra money, that's moving the money around.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I've identified.
So it's not an extra £8 billion?
Oh, it is an extra £8 billion.
Changing the way money is used, but not putting in an injection of cash into the NHS, as Andrew Neil said. And there we have it again, strong economy, but still not really answering the question on the NHS.
Well, that money come from?
That money will be following. There's a report that was done on the NHS, the Naylor report, which set out what was needed, and we're backing the proposals in the Naylor report. It's £10 billion.
And where will that come from?
That will come from a variety of sources. It's capital money, it's separate from the £8 billion. Any of this money can only be provided if we've got the strong economy to fund it, and that's what...
Hospitals have just endured their worst 12 months in 10 years. A record number of urgent operations were cancelled. A string of targets from emergency care to routine care to cancer care have been missed. What you're promising is too little too late.
No, and I accept that the NHS has missed some of its targets, but let's look at, and targets aren't the be-all and end-all. What matters...
Yes, you heard it right. Targets are not the be-all and end-all, but it isn't that what maintains a good level of patient care. Now, the NHS is not up to scratch, and only 85.1% of patients in A&E were treated within 4 hours in January. Apparently, they are the worst figures ever. The government's target for that is 95%. There are also other targets with regards to ambulances. 75% arrived within 8 minutes, but that was not met either last year, as it was only 66.7%. The government hasn't hit its targets on the NHS for 2 years. So it's not a moving of money that it needs, it's more money than it needs. But then she moves on to workers.
We've removed those from the table.
You could bring them back.
We need to look at how the employment work market is working at the moment. That's why I'm very clear that I want to put in extra protections for workers. I think to lower taxes, we've got the strong economy. Fundamental strong hand in those negotiations, but also the strength of leadership in those negotiations.
That's the point you've made several times.
But if you look at the issues around people who are, as you say, I mean, I talked about people who were just about managing, who sometimes find life a struggle, when I came into Downing Street last year. And there are a number of ways in which I want to support those people. On the cost of living, what I want to see is building a strong economy with higher paid jobs.
Looks flustered, doesn't she? Extra protection for workers with a 7-year pay cap on the public sector, don't forget. But as I have said, don't forget the pay rise MPs have had. 2 since the last election. Now, as far as I'm aware, they're public sector. And she thinks she has the strength of leadership in the Brexit negotiations. In my view, doesn't look very strong at the moment, does it?
I want to see higher paid jobs in this country. Doing that is about building a stronger economy. It's about having a vision for the future. That's what we've got. We've set out a draft industrial strategy, a modern industrial strategy, to really develop the economy across all parts of the country, so that we don't see prosperity concentrated in certain areas, but prosperity across the whole country.
Higher paid jobs. There she goes again. Don't forget that 7-year pay cap. Now, do you believe that? With the way she has voted, or not voted, nurses have had a 7-year pay cap. So she moves on to immigration. Now, the government obviously have targets, and this is what she said about those targets.
Look, this immigration target is one that we have had over the years, since 2010. In fact, it was developed when under David Cameron's leadership in opposition. We've brought it through. What we do on the immigration,
in your cabinet.
People do support the immigration target. What they're supporting is the view of the British people. That's what we're supporting, because the British people want to see us controlling migration. We have brought in new rules. We've ruled out a lot of abuse that was taking place in the system, but you have consistently to work at that. We'll get the ability to work at it in relation to the numbers of people coming from the EU, but we're the party. It's me and my party, me and my team, that are committed to saying we want to control migration, whereas Labour want uncontrolled migration.
Labour want uncontrolled migration, which is untrue. They want fair numbers. Now, that could be criticised, but bear in mind the Tories haven't costed a lot of their manifesto, if any. But the target the Conservatives have set of below 100,000 has not been made. It has not been stuck to. Net migration was up on a big scale from when David Cameron was in the chair. Last year, it was as high as 336,000, up from 252,000 with Cameron. Why? Well, she has made cuts in border control to the tune of 558 million for 2016 and 17, a reduction of 0.4% on last year. So will border control suffer? Of course it will. And that could be why the numbers have gone up. But no one seems to be asking the Prime Minister these questions. But why aren't they? Now, due to what has happened in Manchester, I had other details to put in this episode and have chosen to keep them out. But I will say this. Theresa May has cut our national security massively. She told every police force, and you may have already seen it, that they still need to make spending cuts every year for the next 4 years at the time of her being the Home Secretary. Apparently, the police grant report shows the core cash grants given to police will fall nearly 100 million next year to 7.3 billion. But do you remember this promise that George Osborne made?
I am today announcing that there will be no cuts in the police budget at all. There will be real terms protection for police funding. Mr. Speaker, the police protect us, and we are going to protect the police.
Scary, isn't it? Yet another policy that Conservatives have gone back on. Even the Police Federation made its grievances over the cuts known. As always, the response of emergency workers in the face of adversity has been second to none. The welcome support of the military to free up armed officers and other public reassurance will no doubt be managed in the same professional, resolute way. But, as welcome as this is, we cannot avoid the reasons it is needed at all. There is no ignoring the fact that we, the police, simply do not have the resources to manage an event like this on our own. And it's happening time and time again. Theresa May is now a threat to this country. She's a threat to national security, making cuts as well to our services, all while she is having meetings with billionaire media men and lowering corporate tax and making the cuts to make up the difference. The corporates are getting wealthy at the expense of our welfare and security. Theresa May has had in her reign 2 successful terror attacks. David Cameron, with all his faults, had none. But how much does Theresa May really care about our national security? Well, this letter will show you how much. National security should not ever be used as a bargaining chip. Cooperation should always be given to terrorism, no matter what. She is playing with our safety and welfare as a nation.
We owe you, the police, an incredible debt for the courage and bravery you exhibit in the line of duty, for your willingness to put yourself in harm's way day after day in order to protect the rest of us.
Despite this, however, the Home Secretary has refused to rule out further cuts to policing. It's estimated that up to 20,000 officers have been cut under the Conservatives. Watchdogs have warned that the force is in a perilous state. When confronted with the government's record, Rudd was evasive and officers weren't impressed.
What party of law and order, as you put it, cuts 20,000 police officers?
We're a party that defends the budget of the police. We made sure that the police budget was frozen from 2015 to 2019, protected even. Is
there any way you can aspire to that 2.8% over the next 5 years if you're elected on June the 8th?
Well, the 1% pay freeze is in place till 2019-20, so I don't want to mislead anybody.
But that's just people that stand in the way of that, isn't it? There's no sort of law of physics that says it can't change. It could change if you wanted it to.
You tempt me to make a commitment that I couldn't possibly give, but I won't do that.
Let me tell you the reality. In my force, this is one force. We have a force welfare fund, which is a charity. And we are now seeing police officers come to that charity for food vouchers. And that's not to have luxuries, that's to put food on the table or to put fuel in the car so they can get to work. So the words that you used in your speech, Home Secretary, is that right for the public and is that right for the country?
I understand that must be difficult for the police officers and indeed for their families. The average police officer's earnings is about £40,000 a year, so I'm surprised to hear that. That's what I'm told, that the salaries and the overtime.
She is selling arms allegedly to Saudi Arabia. We all know where they are going. David Cameron was proud of that fact. We need the Tories out. Do you really want a party in, a leader in, that puts the very foundations of the country at risk? Fouls on the NHS, fouls on policing, the army, making cuts to the disabled, sticking with a 7-year pay cap, whilst corporate tax is being lowered and the wealthy allowed to prosper at our expense. Is that the type of party you want? But have you noticed that although things were said last year, cuts and negative policies have spiralled out of control since Theresa May had a meeting with Rupert Murdoch. Over an 18-month period, News Corp executives had 20 meetings with senior government representatives. Of these, 18 were with the Prime Minister, Chancellor or Culture Secretary. And of those, 7 involved Murdoch himself. Why? Why would a media company want that level of access to the government? Now, me and my helpers, and I told you there's 2, it doesn't matter who they are, had a theory on all of this. The attack at Manchester. What is Theresa May up to? We came up with a theory, and it was so plausible in relation to what everyone is saying. It was actually scary. Now, I was strongly advised not to say it. For reasons, it doesn't matter. But I will say this. Don't listen to what the government and the media are saying. Hear what they are saying. Make use of your ability to pause live TV. Rewind, play it again, and hang on every word they say, because they are beginning to slip up in the chaos. And we have to be united to catch them out. Theresa May and her party have now become very dangerous to this country. Trust me, because united we can have a better society and a better political system. Do you agree what was said in this video? Can you elaborate on anything that was said in this video? Don't forget to click subscribe. Put a comment in the box below. The best comments, as always, will show on Twitter on Sunday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye bye for now.